Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 1120 Northwest Baker Creek Road here in McMinnville. We're located at the back of the house. I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front of the home. We've got a 4-inch ABS clean out. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's running. We're going to zero out here at the base of the clean out. And I'll try and come up with some kind of landmark here. In fact, the window is probably the best thing to go off of. This clean out is not easy to hunt down. I've been here for over an hour. Had to go through the roof vent to get my camera out far enough to locate this thing. So there's your back door. If you're standing from this orientation, this is like the living room window here. If you're staring at the back of the house, the right side edge of this window, this kind of larger middle pane here, sorry, I've got a nasty sun glare. It lines up with this right side edge of the big main part of the window here. You've got some smaller pieces on either side, but this main window clean out sits straight out from it about 16 inches from the house. Anyway, water's running. We're going to zero out here. Alright, looks like we just transitioned there over to cast iron pipe. Right now my camera is upside down. That is some rather murky cast iron there. Oof. Very heavily pitted. This particular era of cast iron, unfortunately, does not hold up super great over time. Alright, now we're into concrete pipe. We're probably going to see the main here in about 2 seconds. In fact, that's probably it right there. And sorry, the inspector turned the water off. We're turning that back on here. That right there would appear to be the main, though. Anyway, that's the main connection. My camera's coming into this thing at a funny orientation. And this is a very common setup for houses that back up to golf courses. Most of them have main laterals running along the edges of them. Anyway, we're going to let things drain out here for just a moment. I'm going to locate and mark out. So the cast iron right now, it is not that it's not in a functioning state, but the metal is in very, very rough condition. It looks like it's pitted everywhere. The flow line looks like it's got some channeling going on in it. So it is nearing the end of its lifespan. But yeah, like I was saying before, your 1910 cast iron, for instance, 110, 120-year-old stuff will outlive your 1960s and 70s cast iron by a country mile. It is nowhere near the same type of pipe material. Most of your 60s and 70s cast iron right now is in the process of wearing out, if it hasn't already. It just, the metal was not as good. So, anyway, we're going to pull back here once I start locating. Alrighty, so where the line terminates is just out from the concrete patio. I put a green T marking down there. I'm getting around 8 foot 4 inches deep at that location. Anyway, at the very least, my camera right now is kind of sideways. You can see how the water, and I'll let the water continue to drain off here, but you can see how it's kind of sunken down into a trough type shape there. That's where the metal, we call that channeling up until the point the metal gets completely eaten through. That's, you know, we say the line's rotted out at that point. The top of the pipe, though, is showing a very similar level of roughness as the bottom, which is another indicator the line is reaching the end of its lifespan. Usually the top of the pipe fares much better than the flow line as a line ages. Anyway, that trough there is the metal in the flow line being eaten away. So, like I was saying before, the line is still in a functional state, but it is, when it starts to get this rough, that rough texture, for one thing, makes your line much more prone to debris snagging up. Blockages in cast iron that's rough like this block much more stubbornly than your average, you know, either in good shape cast iron and or plastic pipe. Your blockages are much less likely to break loose on their own. I'm having a heck of a time getting good locates here. I just put a marking down here. I'm not going to be putting depths down for a reason. This is one that needs to be relocated. My signal's just coming in really weak and bouncy. It's probably a combination of the depth of the line and the line being cast iron, which already shields the signal pretty good. Wipes and things like that, as you can imagine, you really want to avoid putting down pipe material like this. So if it's not updated now, what I would recommend, I mean, you can leave it as it is. Some of this depends on the volume going down the line. You obviously want to avoid wipes, paper towels, stuff that doesn't disintegrate. You want to keep it to folded toilet paper, ideally. But if not updated now, I would be re-scoping periodically to monitor it. The line still has good slope and grade, so it's one of those you could probably do a liner on it, although being it's under dirt like this, traditional repairs would make more sense. But as the line sits, it has good slope and grade. It's just it's the pipe material itself that is concerning. You've got pitting 360 degrees around the entire pipe circumference. From just the immediate, I'm more concerned about flow in the line and how debris is going to get through the rougher textured pipe. So there are some things you can do to help smooth the line out, like descaling. Run a combination of a jetter and like a flex shaft through the line, which grinds the rougher layer off the surface. And then you blast all the rust bits out of the pipe. But unfortunately, unlike the old cast iron, you're usually not left with healthy metal on the other side. The line's going to accrue scale buildup again. So anyway, that would be my suggestion. If not now, I would be looking to update in the not too distant future, especially if the household's a little bit larger. You can see how rough and bumpy that pipe wall is there, and you've got nodules sticking off that suggest you've got pinholes, and that's what forms that really rough texture that we're going through right here. Is pinholes form, groundwater seeps through, and it creates rust nodules. Anyway, I'm going to try and locate just out from the clean out here, but some of the markings are going to be kind of limited. I'm getting some really, really rough locates in here.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll go away.
All right, pushed out here to the transition. Because of the pitted condition of the cast iron and the fact you've got the process of channeling taking place in the line, I'm recommending the cast iron be updated from the transition there at about 4 or 5 feet into the line out to 21 feet at the main connection. I was getting around 8 feet deep at the main. It might be that deep. It's just, I'm getting some really odd locates in here. I'm not sure what the deal is. If I'm getting interference from something, but I'm around 3'9", 3'10" deep at the transition to cast iron there at about 4 or 5 feet into the line. It just doesn't feel like the line is quite diving as hard to get down to the 8 foot deep mark. So anyway, that's why I haven't put depths on the ground. This is one to be relocated before doing any digging, and I'll put that on the report. The markings out here, other than basically the first one, should be considered somewhat rough. I know they're in the general area. It's mostly the depths I'm having a hard time getting here. So, and I'm going to leave the clean out exposed. It's buried a decent ways, but someone's going to probably have to relocate this if repairs end up happening. If repairs do not happen for some reason, I would rescope periodically. I would probably do that every 1 to 2 years to monitor it, and plan to update in the not too distant future. Once cast iron gets to that point where channeling is occurred and there's that much pitting going on, it's a matter of time before you get a root through the line, the bottom of the pipe wears out, things like that. So it's something I would certainly keep an eye on if it doesn't get updated now. The plus side is it's a super short line. It's about 1/3 the length of the average line out here, and the entire thing is under dirt. So that is a plus. Make sure a rescope is performed after any repairs are completed to check the work. Also very important to do that, and you want to do that when the trench is closed.